Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Voiddyn, and today we're going to be talking about the rotation. Upcoming in Pokemon TCG, after the release of Journey Together coming up soon, more towards the beginning of April, we're going to get a rotation from F format to G format. Now what does that mean for you? If you're currently playing decks in the standard format, you're going to see a lot of cards just kind of up and vanish, go poof, right? You're no longer going to be able to play some of your favorite all-star cards. So because of that, a lot of decks are going to rotate out and others are going to come back in. We're going to be losing VSTARs, we're going to be losing Vs, and we're going to also get rid of Radiant Pokemon as well. Things such as Radiant Alakazam, Radiant Greninja, Radiant Charizard, and other Radiants that may not be played right now are no longer going to be in the format. We'll lose stuff such as Lumineon V and other staples in the format as well. But let's go over a guide to help you survive the rotation from F to G. Currently looking at regionals from Vancouver over the weekend, let's see the top decks that are going to be affected. Recently over the weekend, we saw Roaring Moon come back. A deck that we thought was going to be too slow in a Bidoof format ended up becoming third place in the format itself. This used things such as Roaring Moon EX, Roaring Moon, Radiant Greninja, and a bunch of other ancient Pokemon to really get those quick knockouts as a turbo deck. One of the main pieces of the deck, Dark Patch, will be rotating out. Because of this, we're not going to be able to see those turbo fast decks that utilize Dark Patch to attach quickly and get those turn 2 knockouts. Along with that, we're going to be losing Trekking Shoes, allowing you to look at the top card of your deck and discard it or put it into your hand. Besides turbo decks, we have a lot of key pieces from key decks being rotated. Regidrago VSTAR being a very popular deck that uses dragon cards in the discard to attack. Unfortunately, the main attacker of the list, Regidrago VSTAR, will be rotating, which will make this a deck that you can't really play the playstyle of. Another deck currently that's being rotated out of the format is Lugia VSTAR. Lugia VSTAR's whole strategy was being able to get archetypes out of the discard and put them into play and ramp out special energies from your list by kind of just cheating them out with that Primal Turbo ability. That's also not going to be in the format anymore, as Archeops is rotating, and same with Lugia VSTAR. Currently there seems to be no special energy deck replacement that really fills this gap, but keep an eye out as, other decks seem to pop up left and right. Another big archetype that's going to have to change is Control. Control usually utilizes Snorlax with the block ability to stall Pokemon into the active. It lets you draw cards with cards such as Rotom V, which lets you draw multiple cards, and just kind of overall stall your opponent in the active position. Due to the fact that you will no longer have the Snorlax and the Rotom V, this deck will probably change. It looks like that we will have some sort of control in the next format, but it might be through walls. Cards like Cornerstone Ogerpon EX, as well as Milotic EX, and Mimikyu might be the things that sit in its place. One of the biggest decks that people are really talking about that really think is going to be impacted in the next format and kind of stay true to itself might be Gardevoir. Gardevoir EX has always been strong due to the Kirlia with the Refinement ability. Refinement allowed you to discard a card to draw 2 cards. This synergized with Gardevoir EX's ability, which allowed you to return a Psychic Energy from the discard and attach it to a Psychic Pokemon if you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Now, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen to this list due to the fact that you lose Refinement, and we're not quite sure what we'll see just yet. Honestly, there is a place for Gardevoir in the format as there's a lot of cool psychic attackers, but as the format slows down, we will lose that consistency that Kirlia originally brought to the format. One of the decks rotating completely out of this standard format is Lost Zone Box. One of my favorite decks in the format, Lost Zone Box was all about utilizing cards in your Lost Zone to do special free attacks or to do very powerful attacks for very low cost energy. It even allowed you to ramp with Mirage Gate. Now that we're losing Lost Zone Box, we're not really going to have anything that interacts with the Lost Zone, nor will we have any Lost Zone cards at all. That means we're losing the very powerful Lost Vacuum as well. One of the key cards that's been present in every single one of these decks is Hisuian Heavy Ball. Hisuian Heavy Ball allowed you to take a basic Pokemon out of your prize cards and add it into your hand. This allowed you to play very aggressive strategies with low counts of key Pokemon. So things such as a one of Iron Hands in Lost Zone Box, maybe a Radiant Charizard in some of these lists, or even your Radiant Greninja could be pulled out with your Hisuian Heavy Ball. Due to the fact that we're not getting a way to pull this stuff out of the prizes, we can really expect cards to go up into 3s and 4s of for your basic Pokemon. One of the others that's been really hit, but I'm not quite sure how it'll play post-rotation, is Cloth Terapagos. Cloth Terapagos is this hodgepodge of an aggressive deck that really focuses on getting quick knockouts on pieces and really be aggressive on the early game. It looks to lock your opponent down with Badoo, and then after locking it down with Badoo, get Brute Bonnet set up to poison your opponent's Pokemon, using stuff such as Radiant Hisuian Sneasler to add extra poison counters to it to have it get knocked out, and Petra Runt as well. One of the key facts is that due to the Pokemon getting knocked out during checkup, it actually turns off Pheasantipity EX, a very key point in the format. Cloth itself will not rotate, but we will definitely not see it in an as aggressive deck as this deck. And lastly, the metagame is going to be getting a lot slower because these turbo and consistent pieces, such as Radiant Greninja, are going to be rotated out of the format. Being able to discard to draw cards is going to be very low, with Radiant Greninja and Kirlia both leaving, but we still have the ability to go through cards with Dracloak. Now, will Raging Bolt be able to survive? I think so. I think a lot of people consider Raging Bolt to be one of the better decks coming up. But honestly, we really need to keep our ears to the ground as decks will slow down, especially now that Pokestop is being taken out as well. So let's talk about cards you should keep a lookout for now that rotation has happened. In the upcoming rotation, we're going to be seeing a lot more decks, things such as a Terra Box. We'll see some sort of Flareon lists that pop up. Archaludon's going to be something that looks like it's going to be good. Dragapult looks like it's going to be an honest threat. And these are all data coming out of the city leagues that are happening over in Japan. For example, we have this Tera Toolbox list that goes around. And when I say Tera Toolbox, I'm basically just saying any of these Tera lists that play Noctowl. Noctowl's ability is very strong in allowing you to search out trainer cards with only needing to get a Tera Pokemon out. By having so many Tera Pokemon out, and Area 0 Underdepths, and a bunch of other things, you get some really cool synergies that can come out. A lot of people are playing stuff such as multiple Teal Mask Ogerpons as well as Wellspring Ogerpons as well. They use these types of Pokemon to be able to maybe mask change into one another to attack. These decks play heavily with Fan Rotom too to allow you to search out your Hoothoots and your Noctowls. That gives you a very consistent, while it looks kind of bland and vanilla-ish, you play a whole bunch of different types of energy. You get the best attackers and you search out the cards you need at the time. And just when you thought it was gone, Dragapult EX Dusknoir kind of almost stays the same. You use the ability of Dragapult EX to really put pressure on your opponents. Dracloak allows you to go through your cards very quickly, and honestly, the deck wasn't hit that hard by it at all. A new card called Brock's Scouting will come in that'll allow you to search for up to 2 basic Pokemon or an evolution Pokemon and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Honestly, overall, this is going to be a very control-y deck that locks the game down for a little bit, uses Dusclops and Dusknoirs to weaken down harder targets to kill, and finish off with Dragapult, Hawlucha, and other things as well. This deck is very good, and honestly will probably be the thing to really watch out for when you're at your local game shops. One of the biggest contenders to be kind of up in the air to see if it's going to be good or not is Hop's decks. Hop Zacian, Hop Cramorant, Hop Snorlax, all of these Hop cards are going to be very strong in the format. Hop Zacian is going to be able to deal 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon while dealing 30 damage to a benched Pokemon. Very good for taking out Badoos and also weakening up something else. While it has a very large attack with Brave Slash for 240. There's also Hop's Cramorant, one of my favorite cards, that can hit for 120, and it can only deal damage if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. While this is kind of disadvantaged late game, you're running 2/2/2 of each one of these cards, so you'll probably only play it down once, deal some damage, get a knockout, and move on. We also have Hop Snorlax. So what'll happen is that you'll get Hop Snorlax to put on the bench, and it'll essentially boost up these attacks by 30 damage to really make them hit for more. Right, so 30 additional on any of those cards that I had talked about before really make them hit a lot harder. This is going to be a very aggressive deck that looks to get knockouts early and often, and honestly just be able to really run through any setup that your opponents have. The deck also looks to utilize things such as TM de-evolution to de-evolve and really make those damage counters stick. Have you softened up something a bunch and you really can't finish the job? TM Evolution is going to be one of those things that you have them de-evolve all of their stuff, and those knockouts will just naturally come. You may not get those big 2-prize knockouts, but what you'll do is you'll stop them from being able to set up in the future. And remember, while taking all your prizes do win games, stopping your opponents from setting up will definitely solidify the game for you. All the attack steroids that Hop gets from things such as Postwick, Hop's Choice Band, and Hop's Snorlax will really make this deck very, very good in the format. While it may be super aggressive, and these are a lot of pieces and cards to get together, I honestly think it's something that you could take to your LGS, or even to a cup, and really do well with as long as you are aggressive. One of the decks that really does, though, beat up on these aggressive playstyles is Archaludon EX. Archaludon EX allows you to essentially soak up a lot of these hits and deal even more damage on the knockback by using Relicanth and Duraludon's Raging Hammer attacks. Raging Hammer will allow you to deal 80 plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So you soak up a big 300 hit damage, you'll deal 380 back. Honestly, this deck might be one of the best positioned after the rotation, as honestly, this was something that was waiting to get played anyway. And you get to play one of my favorite cards with this deck too. You get to play Scizor with the Punishing Scissors attack. Scizor with Punishing Scissors is a 1-energy attacker that deals 50 more damage for each opponent's Pokemon in play that has an ability. Scizor is going to be even better with Area 0 Underdepths being played. Area 0 Underdepths is going to encourage decks to spread out their benches to have huge amounts of Pokemon on it, especially with Noctowl being in the format. Those Noctowls are just going to be sitting there and fueling your Punishing Scissors. All you need is 4 Pokemon, and you knock out those Pheasantipity EXs like they're nothing. The main deck I'm looking to play in the next format is probably the Flareon EX Eevee box. Flareon EX is going to be using Noctowls like a video I had made in the past, but instead of involving all the other Eevees, it's just going to probably be using Flareons and Sylveons to really attack. The other attackers in the list will probably be Eevee EX, Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, and honestly anything else that we can accelerate to that we can get away with attacking with. We may not have just normal EX attackers, because Flareon's attack is going to be very good in the next format. As you saw earlier in that video that I made, I played Jolteon, I played Vaporeon, but those really didn't do it. So Sylveon plus Lily's Clefairy will be the thing that gets you around Dragapult, but honestly, it'll probably be up in the air to see how it goes. I wouldn't count Gardevoir out yet, as Gardevoir has a new tech with Explorer's Guidance to fuel its discard, as well as Professor's Researches to be very aggressive in filling your discard to get all those energies in there, and it keeps almost all of its best attackers, with Screamtail, Monkey Dory being able to move things around, Drifloon being able to keep Hero's Cape, Bravery Charms. It's like an older version, maybe even slower version of Gardevoir. Honestly, I think it'll probably be worth experimenting around with, especially if you really liked Gardevoir EX, especially because you get Lily's Clefairy to be able to knock out Dragapult. So overall, honestly might want to give it a try. The other deck that I'm personally looking at building might be the Ends deck. Ends Zoroark EX is very powerful with its trade ability, which allows you to discard a card to draw 2 cards. Honestly, this reminds me of the old Zoroark GX, which was one of my favorite cards ever printed and utterly defined a format. I don't know if I can ask my editor to put this on right now, but if you look back in the day, every single deck was Zoroark EX variants. Along with that, Ends Zoroark can attack using another Ends Pokemon on the bench as an attacker. We will be seeing Ends Darmanitan being the one to attack that has 2 attacks, Backdraft, which deals 30 damage for each basic energy card in your opponent's discard pile, really good against Gardevoir, or Hidoruma Cannon, which you discard all energy from this Pokemon, and it deals 90 to the active and 90 to the benched. Honestly, it's going to be such a cool deck overall. If you really like these themed decks where you use one trainer's Pokemon, this might be it. Especially with the ability to use Ends PP Up, which you attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Ends Pokemon. You remember Dark Patch? This is going to be just like that, but for Ends Pokemon. Now, let's say you were a Charizard fanatic and honestly are just dooming and glooming with the fact that Charizard has not been good. Well, I have a couple of variations for you. There is a Charizard Dragapult list that is currently being played post-rotation that looks to be a very solid way to play it, but honestly, let's say you don't want to play Dragapult. Well, I have another choice for you, that's Charizard Noctowl. Noctowl is going to be so defining in the format. A lot of people forget that Charizard EX is actually a Tera Pokemon. By getting your Charizards out or getting out Terapagos EX, you'll be able to do the setups of Noctowls, Fanrotums, Terapagoses, rare candies, things of the sort. No Pidgeot EXs this time. Now, where would I be if I didn't talk about this last deck in the format? If you guys were playing a lot in Temporal Forces, you might have seen Feraligatr as a card that's been opened up. Feraligatr has the ability Torrential Heart that says once during your turn, you may put 5 damage counters on this Pokemon. If you do, attacks done by this Pokemon deal 120 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, it being a Stage 2 normal type Pokemon will allow you to hit through certain things. But it uses the Pokemon Relicanth, which allows you to use attacks of previously evolved Pokemon with their later stages. So things such as Feraligatr can use Reverse Thrust, which is 1 energy, 30 damage, switch this with one of your benched Pokemon. So 150 for 1 energy, switch it back out. Very cool type of deck that we've seen before in Gliscopod in the past. Just overall very cool switching, like hit and run type things, and you switch into Mimikyu, which will block the EXs and Vs. Honestly, going to be a really cool way to see the deck played, and you have Luxurious Cape as well to give extra buffer to those Feraligatrs just in case, or your Mimikyus as well. There will be a lot of cards rotating, but honestly, we'll get to see a lot more play. Arven's still in the format, which makes items fantastic, so stock up on your Arvens if you haven't. Ionos are in the format still, Munkidori's still in the format still, Pokegear 3.0, there's so many great cards still in the format, so don't doom and gloom yet. If your favorite deck rotated, you will probably find something very similar to it soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry I couldn't cover every deck that everybody speculated about, but there are so many things going on that it would be hard to just cover them all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, as it's one really without too much gameplay content, as we just talk about how the format will be in the future. I yapped a lot during this, but I hope you guys enjoyed as we kind of filled out what the next format's going to look like. Again, I might be wrong on all this, but I hope you guys enjoyed. What's your favorite deck that you're gonna be playing after rotation? I'm torn between N, and I'm torn between... There's just so many good ones. Flareon 2. It's gonna be great. Guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, and I'll see you post-rotation. Bye-bye.